Hi, I'm Peter Capaldi. I play the Doctor, and you're watching EMS Productions.
Hello everybody, and welcome along to today's video where I'm going to be once again looking to the future of Doctor Who and the Chibnall era. Firstly, looking to try and understand why we're most likely not going to be having a series until autumn next year, and also how long the Chibnall era might last. So first off, is the long-standing rumour for the last 6 months or so that it seems highly likely at this stage that we won't be getting Series 11 until autumn next year, whether it be around a sort of August, September air date, simply because the series hasn't started filming yet, rather. Realistically, even if the show started filming tomorrow, it takes a good 9 to 10 months to film a whole series of Doctor Who, so most likely they wouldn't finish filming from tomorrow until a sort of May, June next year. So realistically, I think July is the absolute earliest they want to look to air the show. But August tends to be not a very good period to put on significant or big shows, simply because people are on holiday and going to be missing lots of episodes. So I personally think it'll be most likely that we get the series around the same time that Peter Capaldi's first series, Series 8, aired back in, I believe it was like the bank holiday weekend at the end of August in 2014. I think that's probably where we're looking at this for Series 11 next year as well, and for Jodie's first appearance as the Doctor. So I think it'll be a bit frustrating, I think, for ourselves. Obviously it's a fairly long wait, and one of the issues which was a serious issue in Series 9 was the good old bit of Strictly Come Dancing, moving the schedules every freaking week. So we went from having episodes airing at 6:30 and our episodes finishing at 9:15. It was very up and forth, back and forth, up and down, just simply because Strictly Come Dancing changes length every single week, and that is the programme that they prioritise on a Saturday night. So that will probably be an issue again with Series 11, and it'll be, obviously we don't have a clue exactly how it's going to affect it until we reach that series, because I'm sure there will be some significantly renewed interest just by the fact there is a female Doctor. Obviously there'll be all the angry and whatever, and feel free to chuck negative comments and whatever in this video again. But I'm sure it will, at least for the first couple of episodes, get a lot of people watching the show again, just to see what it's like in this new era and this new Doctor and everything. But then the scheduling could kind of mess everything up a bit. But in terms of the reasoning behind why filming hasn't started yet for Series 11, it's a little bit hard to tell. I mean, it was always going to be tricky to film it before they'd finished Series 10 and the Christmas special, and filming on the Christmas special only wrapped in the middle of July. So it's only been about 3 weeks since then, and you have essentially a completely new team working on the new series of Doctor Who, because you've got Christian at the top. He's also got some new producers in there. I believe there's some new writers coming in as well. Obviously the whole cast is completely new. We don't even know who the companion is yet, which is something I'm fairly sure they should announce relatively soon, because obviously they need to do it before filming starts, because it's going to leak otherwise. So I'm sure we'll find out who the new companion is going to be played by relatively soon. But it's all these things, a lot of them that haven't been put quite into place yet or been made very clear to us. So I think it's probably a lot of it down is also just having Chris Chibnall in there. He's sort of obviously had Broadchurch earlier in the year, which didn't finish airing until April, and I think he kind of wants to take a bit of a break once Broadchurch was done, before he really started to focus on Doctor Who, because it is a massive commitment, Doctor Who. I mean, if you've ever read Russell T Davies' book, The Writer's Tale, which kind of documents his sort of Series 3, Series 4 and the specials, the whole sort of filming and airing of that, it really does give an insight into how sort of serious a task it is to write Doctor Who and to be the showrunner of Doctor Who, and so how much of a sort of a strain it puts in your life for the person who's leading the show at the time. So obviously has been Stephen Moffat for a while. Do check that book out if you haven't already, because it just gives a great insight and really shows that it's not an easy job, it's a massive commitment. So I think it's fair enough for Chris Chibnall to maybe take a month or two off after the end of Broadchurch before he looks to start this show. And so therefore I think it's just gradually pushing the sort of filming dates back and back and back. And most likely at the moment it looks like filming will be starting in either October or November this year. Somewhere sort of, yeah, certainly before Christmas. We'll definitely have some filming in before Christmas, but it's not going to probably be August, September time as far as all the rumours have been suggesting and various people within Doctor Who have suggested. And therefore you add 9 months onto October, you get July next year. So realistically an August air date sounds about right with that kind of thing. The other thing that's been talked about with Series 11 is also the actual format of the series, whether we're going to be dropping to 10 episodes, just to put a little bit less of a strain on the crew, whether the episodes are then going to be up to 60-minute stories. These are all sort of unknown, unconfirmed rumours at the moment. I think it would be a little bit disappointing if we just went down to 10 45-minute episodes and essentially purely lose screen time and nothing else. That would not be good. If we went up to, I think, maybe the perfect sort of scenario would to go for 10 60-minute episodes, which equates to about the same sort of airtime over the course of a series. But I think would just give these episodes a little bit more time to breathe, Whereas we've had a lot of problems in the past with episodes having rushed endings or not really having enough time to sort of build the world and get the exposition quite as you want to have it in the episode. So I think that would probably, by maybe having more longer stories, 1-hour episodes, it would just fit better and be able to potentially create better stories overall. And then if you chuck a couple of two-parters in there, then that also saves on budgets because you can reuse the same sets. That's always one of the big things about having a huge amount of episodes and having lots of different sets and everything, is sets cost money. It's expensive. So if you had maybe 3 two-parters and then you're left with, what, 4 single-part stories through a 10-episode series, that's going to save money and still give you the same amount of screen time for it. So maybe that sort of a format for the show might be better going forwards. Potentially they could then film it a little bit quicker and just be a little bit less of a strain on the crew. And then maybe we could actually have some consistent scheduling and consistently getting a series out every year, which really has only, since 2010, has only really happened in 2014-15, or since 2011, because you've had split series, half series, late airing series, a gap year. It's been all over the shop in the Moffat era, which to some degree is understandable, because if you read Russell's book about his dry time, although he managed to produce 4 series in 4 years, it very nearly killed him, essentially. So I can understand why maybe Moffat has struggled. Some of it's been down to the BBC just not really wanting to sort of, or not doing a very good job of commissioning the show and getting the money in where it needs to be able to get the show filmed in time for a new series to be airing every single year, and it's all gone a bit wrong. But hopefully Chris can bring it in, sort of almost put the show back together in some sense, maybe cut the screen time down a little bit, or at least compact the series a little bit more. And then we can maybe finally have some consistent series. And then the other thing I just wanted to talk about in this video a little bit was the sort of prospects of the Chris Chibnall era. How long are we actually going to last? Because I mean, some close sort of friends of Chris Chibnall in various interviews, someone called James Strong, who was a director on Broadchurch and a good friend of his, has said that Chris has a 5-year plan for the show. In a quote recently about it. So but when the 5 years started, we don't really know. It would seem most likely it was probably either last year or this year, which would imply 2021, 2022 we'd bring it through till. But how many series are going to be within that period? No idea. We're going to get a series every year, we just don't know. I personally think Chris will stick it out for maybe 3 or 4 series. I don't think he'll do as long as Moffat. Though, let's be honest, I don't think anybody in 2009 would have thought that Stephen Moffat would be writing the 2017 Christmas special. Because you look at that from the point of view right now, it would be like Chris Chibnall writing the 2025 Christmas special, which just sounds absolutely mental right now. So it's not impossible, but I'd be very surprised if he sticks around for that long. I imagine Jodie will probably do 2 or 3 series. I'd be surprised if she's a 1-series Doctor. I don't think that would be good for the show if we have only a 1-series Doctor. But I wouldn't be overly against doing just 2 series and maybe have 2 really sort of tightly linked, compacted, massive arcs of a whole sort of Doctor's arc in one sort of almost one storyline through 2 series, which sort of brings her Doctor into the show and to a conclusion, all within sort of one long storyline that Chris has obviously been quite good with in other shows like Broadchurch. Maybe that would be the way forward. If not, I think 3 series will be a maximum for her in the role. I would have thought that Chris will probably stick around to do another Doctor, to do a 2nd Doctor, but I don't think he'll go any further than that. So realistically, I would say maybe he'll write 4, possibly 5 series. It's just very hard to predict at this stage. I mean, he probably doesn't even know. He's probably on maybe a 2 or 3 series contract. I'm fairly sure they commissioned series 11 or 12 and 12 or something like that. But past that, we don't really know exactly how much more Doctor Who has been commissioned. It looks like it'll make it to 2020, but past there, who really knows? But I think there has been some comparisons to sort of the current period of Doctor Who bears some resemblance to sort of the late 80s when the show was falling apart, viewing figures were dropping, the fans weren't very happy with the show, and it was all going a bit wrong. But I think the key difference now to then is that the BBC actually care about the show and they actually want it to succeed, because they wouldn't have waited it out and got Chris Chibnall in if they just didn't care about the show anymore. Because they waited an extra year essentially to have Chris Chibnall, because Chris wanted to do a 3rd series of Broadchurch first. So they could have got a new showrunner in probably for series 10 this year if they wanted to, but they wanted to wait and get Chris Chibnall for the role, which is why Moffat had to do series 10 this year in the end, which he wasn't really planning or thinking of doing. So it does show that the BBC still have confidence in the show and want it to succeed, which I think is promising for the future. They are still going to be putting time, money, promotion or whatever into the show to try and make it succeed. Clearly it's been lacking and struggled the last couple of series, but hopefully the massive change that we're going to get for Series 11 will really give it a proper boost. And hopefully up the viewing figures and bring the popularity back. But overall, I think this is a really exciting time to be a Doctor Who fan again. It probably has stagnated. I mean, I think the quality's still been there for a lot of us and for us real fans, so a lot of the fans of the show, but certainly to the wider audience, the show has significantly stagnated and the viewing figures have dropped. Yes, they really have dropped. I know I read everybody's comments from the last videos. People saying no, they haven't. Yes, they have dropped. I know about TV viewing figures. We have to be realistic. The Doctor Falls, with iPlayer viewing and on 28-day catch-up figures, had a viewing figure of 5.6 million, which is pretty shocking. Bearing in mind that, for example, Peter Capaldi's first episode got 6.9, I believe it was, on overnight figures. Or we're even looking back to sort of the early years, they were getting 7 or 8 million overnight figures and consolidated figures of near 10 million. And we're looking at 5 or 6 million when you take into account iPlayer and catch-up viewing figures and all this kind of thing. So there is absolutely no denying the show has lost a good 2 million viewers since Matt Smith era. That is just fact. Certainly in the UK, maybe it's got bigger in the worldwide, but that's a bit hard to gauge because we don't see all the viewing figures from around the world. So it has gone wrong over the last few years and less people are watching the show. But I think with all the big changes we've got, it's really going to go the right way again. Jodie, I think she's going to be really good. I know I've read all 400 or so comments in the last video, and yes, I've read all these negative comments about the show and about Jodie as the Doctor. All I would say is give her a chance. That's all I would say. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully I've given you a bit of information and maybe a little bit of positivity about the show's future, and the fact that it looks like we've certainly got 2 guaranteed series, and I'm sure we'll, unless the show is an absolute disaster with Jodie Whittaker, which I cannot see it being. Seeing her interviews the last couple of days, she's lovely, she's fantastic. She's so excited about the role, she's really just got that sort of excitement and enthusiasm. She almost can't stop sort of smiling when talking about it in interviews, which I think is fantastic for the show to have her like that, where she's just completely excited about doing the show, which is brilliant and a great way to promote the show as well. So I think overall it's fairly positive. But other than that, guys, remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new here, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will see you again very, very soon for another video. Goodbye.